کنفرانس بین المللی ایران چشمانداز تغییر 29 ژوئن 2018. پنل اول، سیاست صحیح در قبال ایران.
Maintenant, nous en sommes au moment où il faut savoir que faire pour l'avenir. Nous savons tous que les problèmes du Moyen-Orient et indirectement les problèmes de l'ensemble du monde sont liés au comportement de l'Iran, une grande partie des problèmes du moins. L'Iran est ainsi à la fois la cause et certainement la solution d'une partie de ces problèmes. Et nous savons tous aussi que le problème de l'Iran, c'est le régime de l'Iran. Et cet après-midi, nous aborderons un autre sujet qui est très important et qui n'est pas connu des opinions publiques, y compris des politiques, y compris des spécialistes, c'est le problème des gardiens de la Révolution. Quel rôle jouent-ils? Quel rôle peuvent-ils jouer? Quelle attitude doit-on avoir à leur égard? Et nous terminerons par un panel qui se penchera sur la question suivante. Nous essaierons de voir quelles peuvent être les alternatives politiques dans un pays comme l'Iran. Voilà, vous êtes tous, j'en suis persuadé, très désireux d'avoir la suite. Je m'arrête et je donne la parole à ces brillants intervenants que je vous prie, je vous propose déjà d'applaudir.
You saw 10, 15 years ago, the Americans and the United Nations were imposing a lot of sanctions on Iran because there was no trust on the question of the secret nuclear program that was exposed by the organized opposition, the NCRI, in 2003. After that, President Obama entered into negotiations at the initiative of Iran and extended an olive branch, looking for understanding between the United States and the Iranian regime. 5 years later, there was a nuclear agreement, but not a lot of trust. In fact, Iran became very aggressive to its neighbors and engaged in gross human rights abuses, even more so after negotiations began. And so President Trump has withdrawn from the nuclear agreement. And the Secretary of State of the United States, Mike Pompeo, has listed 12 demands. Some people say that this is a very hard line. It's an impossible bar for Iran to meet in order to satisfy the Americans. But every one of the 12 demands has to do with aggression and secret nuclear enrichment and lack of information and disclosure about the nuclear program, as well as ballistic missiles and aggression against Syria, against Yemen, against the rest of the Middle East, and terror groups. And so so my question for the panelists to start off will be, please give us your thoughts on where we go from here and how do we unite as Europeans and Americans, and how do we find common ground with the people of Iran?
I would like to spend just a few words on what, in commenting the European position on Iran as it is now and as it has been over the last 3 years. In European position, I mean European position, the position by the European institution, Commission, all the major organs of the Commission, and the major EU governments, especially those which belong to the 6+1, to the 5+1 negotiation. The first point I would like to make is that this policy of appeasement at all costs that the Europeans are carrying on with the Iranian regime is based on a false assumption and on a dangerous narrative. The assumption and the narrative are that Rouhani regime is an improvement and a sort of a guarantee for Western interest in the region. And this is completely wrong, because we know very well that not only Rouhani is part, very much inserted in a leadership which is exactly the leadership belonging to the great leader, to Ayatollah Khamenei, which has not changed in its fundamentals and in general messianic vision of bringing the Shias ahead of all the Muslim world and dominating the region, but is also creating a situation that is really destroying the Iranian economy with no real fight against corruption, modification of the structural elements of the economic system, no control on the banking and the financial tools which continue to fuel and to be at the basis of recycling in support of terrorist activities, and therefore increasing the strength of the IRGC and the security, very oppressive system. So this assumption and these ideas that the Europeans continue to present, to float in interacting with Iran must be modified, must change. And it is extremely important that Europeans come together with the Trump administration in finding a common roadmap to address the Iranian problem. How to do that? The way ahead is to continue pressuring and establishing conditionalities in our relationship, also in European Union relationship with Iran. It is completely wrong to pursue other ways, such as increasing cooperation across the board, not only cultural and political, but even, as in some member states has happened, even in the military and intelligence field. It is extremely important to be more serious, to interact between European institutions and the American administration in order to avoid this derailment of European policies, just to continue to give our entrepreneurs the impression that the Iranian market is an El Dorado. It is not an El Dorado. It's a trap full of risk. It was already in the past, even before the Trump administration took power in Washington, but now it's very evident that there are enormous risks for European companies, and Italian companies, for instance, even major companies, are already suffering for the wrong decisions which were pushed to take by the Renzi and Gentiloni government. I'd like to conclude about the action that the Iranian regime is carrying on recently, and really the unacceptable tricks that they're trying to use to try to disseminate hatred and even provoke divisions among Iranians, to try to undermine the spontaneous and very important revolt that more than 140 cities in Iran have taken place over the last 7 or 8 months. And I would like just to mention the latest case, which is, let me use this word, revolting, in my opinion. And it is the interview that was given to Bloomberg by Reza Pahlavi, the son of the former Shah. And I believe that in that review and the fact that in that interview that he gave, and the fact that he said, well, all in all, it's better to support the regime than support the PMO's MEC, because we have to. Here is a policy of complicity and co-responsibility which cannot be accepted in any possible way. And that's why I would like to use this opportunity of saying a couple of words to reiterate strong support to President-elect Mariam Rajavi to continue her fight, because we cannot accept that from his golden exile, the son of the last and discredited rule of Iran speak against the only and truly democratic resistance, which is the PMO in MEC. Is it a family revenge? Is it anger because of the fight for democracy and freedom? And I think that we should show openly that we don't fall in this last trap by the Iranian regime and his accomplices. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
I'm an unlikely proponent of Trump policy, as having been in the Democratic leadership in the Congress for many years. But it appears to me that by and large, the Trump policy on Iran, what we are doing is what everybody else in a quiet moment is thinking. No one can genuinely believe that there is a long-term future in the family of nations if our goal is international reconciliation, the spreading of markets and prosperity, the strengthening of international institutions, with the Iranian regime at the table. There could not be more evidence that that simply is not possible. And we all recognize that getting from here to there, changing the regime, is dangerous, messy. A lot of people and a lot of interests will get hurt. But no one can genuinely believe at this point, after Syria, after what's happened in Iraq, after the use of these horrendous weapons, that there's really an alternative. If we're going to deal with the mullahs and outlaw regimes like it, it's only now. Now, critics can say that the United States, with its 12 points from Secretary Pompeo, has set a not high but an impossible bar to meet. Therefore, the goal really isn't reconciliation. Exactly right. I think that's true. And there's no reason why we should be compromising on those standards. An Iran that wants to join the family of nations shouldn't be given a separate deal. Here's the deal: how you have to behave and act like every other leading nation. This is a nation of 80 million people that, if it were functioning properly with a normal economy, normal government, normal trade, normal leadership, would be a great regional, if not international, economic power. There should be no separate deal. That's what Pompeo's 12 points are about. No separate deal. Does that mean that we'll never really reconcile with the mullahs? To be fair, to be honest, yes, it does. It means that we are in a state, even if unacknowledged, of attempting regime change. We all have our roles in history. Our European allies may choose other fights that we don't choose. We can be supportive from the sides. And those nations who want to avoid conflict realize, again, there's only two ways out: this road or the military road. This is the path better taken.
Thank you,
Linda.
Senator.